Welcome back to Console Crapshoot, where we spin a wheel to play a random video game on original hardware. We're going to do something a little different today. I did a little research, and coming up in a couple days on September 18th is a Japanese holiday called Respect for the Aged Day, where Japan honors its elderly citizens. And because retro gamers are quickly becoming elderly, I thought this would be a good time to do an all-Japanese wheel. Only Japanese systems and games on the wheel today. While there are a lot of possibilities, we're really looking for something uniquely Japanese that we can't play anywhere else. And we got that. Very lucky pick, the NEC Supergrafx. Little known system. I'll get into the history a bit of the Supergrafx later, but as you can see, only 8 games came out for this system. So this was a very good pick for us. Alright, I'm going to do my best not to butcher this name. Madö Granzört. I think that's as close as I'm going to get. Alright, I'm going to let this sit in demo mode while we sit and talk about the NEC Supergrafx for a sec. You may be familiar with the TurboGrafx 16. That came out in the US. I've got one here. The Japanese version of that system is the PC Engine. I've got that right here, and that's what we're playing on today. This system was pretty underpowered. Think of it as like a beefed up NES. Now, there was a lot of different versions of this hardware. NEC was always tweaking it, trying to get it to compete with the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. There were CD add-ons, and at one point they released this better version called the Supergrafx. But it was basically a PC Engine with more RAM and a couple of extra bells and whistles. It was supposed to be a big deal, but never quite took off, hence only the 8 original games for it. It played all the PC Engine games, but as far as games that were designed to take advantage of this system, only 8. And unfortunately, I do not have a Supergrafx. As you may have noticed, I'm playing this on my PC Engine. You couldn't normally play Supergrafx games on a PC Engine, but I kind of cheated. I have an add-on for it called the Super HD System 3 Pro, and this adds the capability and the power that I need to play Supergrafx and CD games. You could make the argument that this is actually emulation, and in a way it is. But we are playing on an original NEC system, and if anything, this would be considered hardware emulation and not software emulation. There is a big difference. We will be getting into that in a deep dive at some point soon, but for now, let's get to the game. So, this was based on a late 80s Japanese anime, and just like most of those at the time, this involved mechs. And side note, the gameplay of this game was actually based on another TurboGrafx game called Keith Courage in the Alpha Zones, and that game was not very good. So the game doesn't use any of the cutesy kid stuff that is in the show. It's about 3 kids that get these mech suits. It's pretty bare bones, but here's the cool part. You can quickly, on the fly, change between these 3 robots, and they each have different abilities. The red one's got a sword that you can power up to a flame sword, and the special ability is to kneel down and cause these earthquakes that kill everything on the screen. Not sure how the earthquakes affect the flying enemies, but they do, so okay. You got the green one that shoots arrows and has like a limited flying ability, and the blue one has a staff and a shield ability that looks like it only works against minor enemies. This game was a little tough at first, and that's mostly because you can't get hit. One hit, you lose your life. The only exception to that is if you get this power up, you turn silver, and then you could take 1 hit. Later on in the game, you can get a gold power up that lets you take 2 hits. Maybe there's more if you get further than I did. But while switching the characters with the different abilities is kind of cool, that's about it here. There's some decent boss fights, and heavy use of what looks like the Star of David. It's a little weird, but things mean different things in Japanese culture. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish there was more meat here to talk about, but the graphics and the gameplay are both very bare bones. Hold on, intermission time. Alright, Madö Granzört for the NEC Supergrafx. Yeah, we've been in a bad game slump for a lot of episodes now, and I was really hoping that this would be the one. I'm really glad we got something that's uniquely Japanese, but of the 8 games available for the Supergrafx, there are others that do a lot better job of showing off the hardware. I feel like this game is doing the bare minimum. Once you get used to the initial coolness of switching your characters and abilities on the fly, you're quickly gonna get bored. It feels like this was a rushed product due to the lack of games for the system, and that shows. And the abilities aren't even really balanced. The red guy's earthquake ability is just far too convenient to really use anyone else unless you have to fly, and the blue guy's shield doesn't really do much. So we are going to give this game a 2 out of 5. Felt fresh to get something very different and again uniquely Japanese, but let's hope for something better next time. Would you guys like me to do another all-Japanese episode again sometime? Let me know in the comments. And Carl and I will see you next time.